Could it possibly be that the universe and its galaxies and stars like the Earth are electrical machines of some kind that are so sophisticated that we do not even recognize them as technology? With us singling out the Earth for this video, as we bear in mind that the movements and other dynamics of Earth's core and plate structures are mechanical in nature, in addition to producing electrical fields, just like what are called microelectrical mechanical machines. Could it also be that the tectonic plates of planets like Earth are the equivalent of electronic and mechanical plating of some kind, whereby the natural forces of gravity and magnetism over a period of billions of years serve as the next best thing to electronic and mechanical plating and fabrication processes? Not unlike the types used to produce biological and chemical sensor chips and image sensor and computer chips and other micro machinery. With silicone and metal-based plates and trench capacitors of the types also found in transistors, diodes, and other semiconductor chips that we are comparing with Earth's tectonic plates and oceanic trench zones to start with. And with most comparisons being labeled and important syntax highlighted with arrows in most cases, and with you always focusing on the highlighted syntax and similarities in the shapes of these comparisons that are and will be flashing by on your screen for the duration of this video. And as we can see, the layers of plating and circuits in these technologies are converging, diverging, and overlapping in ways that mirror the layering of Earth's tectonic plates, crusts, and the layering of the Earth at large. And as you watch this video, pay special attention to the chemical symbols when you see them, as well as how the lingo used to describe Earth physics and these technologies are identical in many of these examples. Not only are Earth's tectonic plates structural mirror images of electronic plating, but Earth's plates and the Earth at large are also more or less chemically and electromagnetically identical to electronic plating and other technologies we are comparing the Earth to in no particular order. Most, if not all, of these technologies you are looking at in this section of this video are based on complementary metal oxide semiconductor technology and charged coupled device technology, aka CMOS and CCD, with emphasis largely being placed on the prior, although a few CCD and other examples are randomly included. CMOS and CCD chips are both semiconductors that are made with varying amounts of metal, silicone, and their respective oxides. Primary applications for these chips include their use in biological sensor and camera equipment and computer and radio equipment and various combinations thereof. All of this equipment is layered like the Earth, as we bear in mind that the Earth is made of 3 primary layers, just like these CMOS and camera and biosensor chips that come in many varieties with many applications. The Earth and probably other living planets are probably a fusion of the types of technologies we are seeing in this video, as we bear in mind that fusions of some of these technologies indeed exist to various degrees, as you will soon see, as we also bear in mind that silicon and its oxides are the second most abundant element on Earth, next to oxygen, with metals and their respective oxides being the next abundant. and mixed in with the silicone of the Earth, in addition to being sandwiched between the layers of this silicone, or vice versa in some cases, just like the layering of these technologies we are comparing the Earth to. And I would bet money that the geochemical sequence of the layers of the Earth are identical to the chemical sequence of the layers of these and other semiconductor technologies that have been developed within the last few decades, all of which produce an electrical charge, just like the Earth is electrically charged. What I want to burn into your brain here, however, is not that these layered technologies you are seeing are made of the same chemical elements that the Earth is made of, but that the Earth and its layers are made of the same chemical elements that these technologies are made of, in addition to being layered like these technologies, as well as producing the same electromagnetic field as these technologies. This is one of the most important things you need to bear in mind as you watch this video. With an emphasis not just on biological sensor chips at this point, but also on their built-in plates and circuits that are used to make these and other semiconductor chips, including more than a few unlabeled chips I included, and that are alive with electricity and obviously structured like the Earth's continental and oceanic crust and plates, and mountains and valleys and so forth that appear to respectively be serving as electrical field plates and sources, drains, gates, spacers, trenches, and other technological components that mirror the structure of the Earth in exquisite detail if you look at these comparisons hard enough in this video. This means that the quadrillions of tons of natural silicone and metals and sand, quartz, granite, flint, and the rest of the metals and silicates that exist beneath your feet are more than likely a potentially photosensitive technological sensing substrate of some kind that we call the ground, or terra. And we can see with our own eyes how the top layers of the Earth appear to be a mere image of some kind of biosensor platform, largely made of silicone and metals and their respective oxides, with the latter being the oxidized versions of the prior and largely concentrated at and near the surface of the Earth, aka the lithosphere or lithosphere, aka Earth's crust or plates. And with me splitting hairs here, whereas Earth's raw silicone and metals are largely concentrated in the interior mantle and core of the Earth, exactly like the semiconductor chips, including metal oxide and charged coupled device chips, the technology of which overlaps into each other, and any number of other chips that are flashing by on your screen. This means that the Earth appears to in part be playing the role as some kind of spherical biosensor or laboratory on chip device, as we bear in mind that both spherical and flat versions of these devices exist, including microfluidic biological sensor chips that you have or will soon see. These devices come in many different varieties and are used by doctors and scientists to study and manipulate genes, cells, microbes, and other matter at the microscopic level. Laboratory-on-chip biosensors are being merged with complementary metal oxide semiconductor chips, which includes transistor biochemical sensor chips, with the iron and other metal oxides in the Earth falling into place here in conjunction with any number of other metals and their oxides that are used in tandem with silicone in the layering of biosensor and camera and computer chips and other technologies. all of which have to do with image sensing and data processing and communications, plus other applications. And we can't help but notice the amazing similarities between the surface of the Earth and these surface gratings and grids on these electronic biological sensor chips and the semiconductor components used in the production of these and other technologies, including antenna and capacitor and other chips and their plating structures, whose internal and external structures mirrored the structure and texturing of Earth's layers and plates and ridges and mountains and valleys and oceanic channels, trenches, and so forth. And with us not forgetting that the electromagnetic field of the Earth is also identical to the electromagnetic fields produced by these electronic chips, with their chemical compositions and the proportions thereof also being identical, I presume, and I would bet money on this. With this example of a biosensor merged with an antenna being the only example I could find on the internet. Another similarity between technology in the Earth is Earth's oceans and their respective channels, or straits and so forth, compared to what are called channel-based microfluidic biosensors that have been merged with metal oxide semiconductors that include their own transistor channels. And I think these have built-in microfluidic channels that probably serve as channels for electrical currents and specimens within these electrical currents, which help analyze the specimens in and on these biosensor chips. Another amazing similarity between the language, structure, and dynamics of the Earth compared to technology is the concept of what are called oceanic trenches compared to what are called trench capacitors, which are used in many of the technologies of the types we have been looking at. Oceanic trenches include not just gigantic deep holes in the ocean floor, but also the gigantic trenches that form in tandem with Earth's subducting tectonic plates, the tail end of which resemble the actual trenches in these capacitors we are looking at. Capacitors are devices that have everything to do with storing an electrical charge for whatever reason, and the Earth is indeed a capacitor of some kind that stores electricity. With the structural, chemical, and electromagnetic similarities being all right here for you to see. And all I am saying here is that these comparisons look alike and are in the right place and share the same name and chemical compositions more or less. This long and growing list of similarities grows to what include deep oceanic trenches compared to deep trench capacitors. These devices are used in the manufacture of semiconductor chips of all different kinds, including biological sensor and computer chips and digital camera pixel sensor chips, plus other technologies, I'm sure. And with silicon being the main ingredient in the Earth and these technologies that we are comparing the Earth to, as previously noted, with Earth being some kind of largely silicon-based hybrid biological sensor chip with built-in biorecognition and computer and radio technology, I suspect that is probably picking up, processing, and relaying information on Earth's inhabitants and perhaps even influencing our genetic evolution and behavior at large via Earth's electromagnetic field. Just like the electromagnetic fields used in certain types of biosensors. And I'm sure this would include biosensors that are based on aluminum and titanium and other abundant metals, oxides, and silicones found in the layering of the Earth. With this aluminum and titanium based biosensor chip being the only example I could find on the internet at this point, as one of the most important comparisons between Mother Earth and technology you will ever see in your lifetime. The chemical and structural similarities between Earth's plating structure and the plating structure of these electronic chips are obvious, as we can see with our own eyes. As previously discussed, not unlike certain types of electronic plating of the type used to produce semiconductors and other technologies. And as already noted, most of the electronic chips you have seen in this video can be found in spherical versions, from semiconductors to biological sensors to antennas and other technologies. With chemical compositions that include silicon and magnesium, aluminum, titanium, nickel, iron, and so forth, including their oxides, which are more or less identical to the geochemical composition of the Earth. The structural and chemical similarities are obvious, and this includes the similarity in the structure of the inner and outer Earth layers and chambers and veins of magma between and within these layers, which are distributed exactly like these electronic interconnects and interfaces and so forth in this electronic equipment here, all of which are made of silicates and metals and their oxides that are abundant throughout the Earth and any kind of electronic and optical equipment. Where the similarities between Earth and technology become even more striking is that Earth's so-called geological transition zone, i.e. the layer that separates Earth's upper and lower mantle, is in the same comparable location of electronic transition layers that separate electronic plates and circuits and facilitate the transition of one elemental layer to another. As we consider the especially significant fact that the geological layering around Earth's transition zone has recently been revealed by scientists to be loaded with iron oxide plus any number of other metal oxides that are used as transition layers in the electronic equipment we are comparing the Earth to. Where the similarities get even more uncanny is the fact that diamond is used in the production of electronic equipment, and diamond is generated in and abundant throughout Earth's geological transition zone. As we consider that diamond is used in the production of electronic equipment, in part because of its semiconducting and electronic and optical properties, and because the thermal dynamics of diamond facilitate the even distribution and dissipation of heat inside electronic equipment. I suspect. As I start wrapping up this video, let us consider that perhaps the Earth and its core are technological masterpieces that are so large and so sophisticated that we don't recognize them as technology. And this would include the other planets in the solar system, with their respective cores being some kind of hybrid piece of technology that includes the role of a sensor and camera or lens node of some kind, merged into a CPU core, perhaps. As we consider that Earth's core is believed by some scientists to be comprised of 5% silicon, plus any number of metals and other elements that are used to produce central processors. With Earth's complex network of magma veins and chambers appearing to be distributed like the electronic interconnects, interfaces, and circuits, and so forth, in addition to being electromagnetically charged like these technologies. With the cores of the Earth and perhaps the other planets in the solar system perhaps playing some kind of role in some kind of multi-core processing system, as part of a computer system of some kind, merged with a sensor system, merged with a surveillance system, and so forth. As part of some kind of control system, more specifically some kind of computer control system, with the so-called black hole computer at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy, aka Sagittarius A, at the core of our galaxy, playing the role of some kind of computer control and camera observation platform in conjunction with the planets in our solar system and the rest of the universe, perhaps. I think solar systems are equal opportunity platforms, insofar that planets that life happens to evolve on automatically become targets and specimens of these platforms. Perhaps just about everything the human race thought it knew about life, death, and the universe is little more than lies, myths, legends, and lore. I included a playlist of my videos that I think will help place these concepts into context for you. And don't forget to share and like this video and hit the subscribe and notification buttons so you can receive notification whenever I upload a new video.